e-government and a few things with respect to infrastructure, where we sit as a country, some of the indices, and something I can do so without slides, first of all, is give a background to what I do now and what role it plays around e-government, and also some thoughts really around where we are with the industrial revolutions. Can you just push through the slides? Okay, so it's a pathway to a prosperous nation, and it's a bit of a long journey. It's not just one step. I think I spoke to this last year at the event, and I'm delighted to be here. I'm really honored to be here again, talking on the subject. So, what's e-government? I mean, you can read that. I think we all know really around taking government online, around integrated services. But one assertion I'm making actually is that e-government is a handshake between what I call e-government and e-citizen. And then you take it one step further and you say actually CRM, customer relationship management, and so on, actually becomes citizen relationship management as well. On the pathway to a prosperous nation, we all know some of the statistics, some of the numbers we've been quoting for some time, that every 10% of broadband penetration gives anything up to around about 2.5%. People say average actually of 1.5%. But when you do the research around it, it's actually around about 2 to 2.5% uplift in GDP impact for emerging economies, right? And that's when an emerging economy, the speed of emergence, I mean, the broadband penetration impact drives that kind of GDP growth. The other assertion, actually, our fact, also is that this broadband penetration has to be in conjunction with the right kind of infrastructure that enables the actual consumption of that broadband penetration. It's one thing to have broadband penetration, it's another thing to have broadband uptake. And that's a key thing that we have to put in mind. But statistics also show that broadband uptake is actually based on access, mostly in emerging economies like our own, through mobile devices, and enabling mobile devices or tablets or whatever form to be an outreach into the community. And that also therefore needs digital infrastructure. We've been doing pretty well. Nigeria has 51% broadband penetration now. It keeps going up. I listened to the EBC, NCC talk about this just a couple of weeks ago, about the target for the end of the year. It looks like we're already meeting that. But the concentrations actually differ. I mean, it's really quite remarkable. And I remember my dear friend, I'm not sure what your title is right now, but I'm hoping it's getting bigger and bigger in the new administration. But I remember the assertion you made that Lagos State is probably around about 70–80% broadband penetration. That's remarkable. That's around about 15 million people. Okay. If we look at absolute numbers, that means Nigeria's broadband penetration as a whole, on average, because we have some huge concentrations like Lagos State, Ogun State, for instance, those states. But on average, that means in Nigeria, we have around about over 100 million, about 110 million or so, connected to broadband. Now, if you put it in perspective, that's not far off the combined population of the UK and France put together, right? Really quite remarkable. So, but what's going on around here? What I'll do as I go through my sessions is just describe what I do now. For over a year now, about 15 months, I've been Chief Executive Officer of Open Access Data Centers. Open Access Data Centers, if you look, it was established in 2018 by WIOC. WIOC is a communications group. Open access, hyperscale, wholesale provider of connectivity across Africa. We are building data centers across Africa. We have 4 core data centers in South Africa, in Durban, which has landed the 2 Africa cable, which WILD is a consortium member of, 1 in Joburg, 2 in Cape Town, which also has the connectivity equipment into a piano in Cape Town. If you come to Nigeria, we actually have a data center right now, a mega data center, which is our flagship in Lagos, in Lekki, in Lagos. I'll just show a few pictures very, very quickly. I'm not doing sales, I'm just making an assertion of the kind of infrastructure we have. So what we've done in DRC, I'll ask you to move the slides, please, when I'll talk about the next slide. So we have, in Kinshasa, we're building the first data center in Kinshasa, which is all Tier 3 certified, all carrier neutral. We build very vibrant interconnect ecosystem in every data center we have. And we talk about this converged open digital infrastructure, which brings connectivity and data centers together. Okay, so if you look at what we now have, the next slide will show what we now have in Lekki. That's the front of house over there. The next slide gives different perspectives. The next slide is of what we have established now, being live since February this year. And naturally, it's Uptime Institute certified Tier 3. Keep going, please. And typical white space, world-class white space that we have. Keep going. And command centers. Keep going. I don't want to dwell on it. Now hold it. So, coming back to Nigeria and the converged open digital infrastructure, what WILD is doing in the WILD group, we have the connectivity business and the data center business. I run the data center business across Africa, and I'm based in Lagos. I make a very strong assertion that the place to be based in Africa, to run Africa from, actually, is Lagos. It's got a fantastic geophysical location. I can fly to anywhere in Africa in 6 hours, maximum 1 connection by air. That also has a big implication for Nigeria. The Equiano cable actually lands in this data center in Lekki. It landed April last year, and is now operational. Indeed, when we had the cable cut around around about where we had the DRC, we actually restored a lot of services from those WACs and ACE cable cuts and SAT3 onto the piano cable. So it's actually now working. We're also building a long-distance, national long-distance network across Africa. And you see a view of what we have across Nigeria, rather. Let's still do Nigeria right now. Across Nigeria, that allows us to enable connectivity for a lot of our partners who are ISPs, who are also carriers around here, open connectivity across the nation. We are also building data centers across the nation in Port Harcourt, in Abuja, and we're looking at other locations across the mid-south and out through to the mid-northeast, Jos and Co, and connectivity taking us right up through Kaduna to Kano. So what does this mean? It's underpinning infrastructure that enables national e-government. We have to have that. Okay? The other thing it means with respect to this broadband penetration I was talking about is it moves the differentiation from having the infrastructure to delivering the customer service. You see where I'm coming from? So an ISP in Lagos can actually decide, I'm going to deliver services to Benin. Okay? Open access network infrastructure with data center, edge data center connectivity that is near the point of use. So we have this core to edge strategy. The core are the mega data centers and so on that we have. And you have the edge data centers at points of consumption that carry connectivity to the eyeballs. And if you're going to have e-government, you have to be able to reach the eyeballs. And you have to be able to deliver to the devices that actually consume the content and the infrastructure that you provide. That's why I'm talking about what we do, because it puts it in context of enabling e-government. And it's transformational for Nigeria, but we see what we do as transformational for Africa. Next slide, please. And that shows you what we do in Africa. It's a bit far away, the slide sets, to read what is there. So I'll just use them as cues and talk to them. I don't expect you to be able to read them. But that just shows the level of connectivity you have right across Africa, and it continues to move. So from a country's point of view, next step, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Southern Africa, Zambia, Malawi. I'm going to places where you might not think are the key places. But it's okay, because we have the core to edge strategy. The continuum between both, you put the right size data center. Next slide, please. And for Lekki, it just shows how Lagos, in the scheme of things, becomes the digital hub around West and West Central Africa. We're building out to 24 megawatts on the one site. We have a 4-hectare site there. We're already fully spoken for pretty much around the tier 3 one of phase 1 that we have in building in front I showed you. The next phase of 12 megawatts is underway right now, and based on demand, and we expect that demand to come to Lagos because of the geophysical location. It's served by a significant amount of cable systems, and the 2 Africa cable system will be coming in shortly. So it's starting to happen in some places. First of all, they're doing the east, and they will also then be doing the west, coming around West Africa. Let's go on. Okay, so the UN did an e-government assessment last year, September last year. Because last year when we were here, we were talking about that assessment happening, going on. And there are some numbers that just look odd, considering some of these statistics I talked about. And the EBC NCC mentioned it as well. How can we have 51% broadband penetration? And those who are here might remember about 3 or 4 years ago, I made an assertion that we're 12%, we're talking about 12% contribution to GDP or digital, right? I made an assertion that digital will reach 20% of GDP. We're at 19.1, I think, or something like that. There. It's there or thereabouts 19, okay? And we're on a trajectory, actually. I'll push it out now. That is, we're going beyond 20. This is when things exceed our expectations. We're going beyond 20%. The DG of the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics made a point that oil and gas or the Institute of Technology, I had an alumni award there, and I did a lecture, yeah. So on industrial revolutions, the first industrial revolution actually was around about 1780 or something like that. 120 years to the second industrial revolution to about 1969. And then the third one, where we have computing, digital, mainframe, and everything as we know it now. And then fourth, that's now just 50 years. People in this room, if you're like 45 years old and stuff like that, you've lived through the most transformational part of the world so far. Because that means you've lived through the second industrial revolution, the tail end, into the third industrial revolution. The fourth industrial revolution at the time, my assertion, is that it's just going to be 25 years, right? And this lecture I did was in 2027. Everything that's going on about AI and so on, that is the beginning of this. We're just sort of transitioning, sleepwalking from the fourth to the fifth. And probably when this fully crystallizes, it will then become the fifth industrial revolution. What does it mean? I gathered from a conference in France, Antibes, a couple of weeks ago, what's been happening with AI and AI workloads, and what it means for digital infrastructure for us, and what we need to really take it from an e-government point of view. AI workloads in Europe are growing hugely. Okay? There's no power, and they're not getting planning permission to build data centers. So what's going to happen? It means, therefore, that the normal cloud workload is going to have to find another home. And there's a huge amount of African workload that sits in Europe right now. And I will talk about it, that we can talk about another view I have around some of the power stuff and sovereign data. But that's going to find a new home, and you'll find a new home in Africa. And that is the digital revolution opportunity for Lagos as an anchor point. And we're looking at connectivity, undersea connectivity also to South-South, which WILD has been also involved with the consortium partnership with Africa, and so on. So it will drive an anchor point of fifth industrial revolution and AI, cloud workload down here. It has a huge implication for capacity. Okay? Next slide, please. Okay. And which means we've got to get the infrastructure right. The multi-cloud environment, on-prem as well. But my assumption is that government really should be powering, not building infrastructure, but enabling companies that deliver data centers and connectivity to do that. And this is going to be a key issue around Africa as we move towards actually a unified sovereign data agreement, probably built around EFCFTA as something that is enabled through digital. Okay. So if you look at the benefits of e-government, shared reliable infrastructure strategy, I don't think government should be building data centers. I don't think they should be doing communications because but we should be enabling open access communications and shared data center infrastructure. That's the way we'll get the agility, because you just get videos and you want to get more capacity. You see, that capital just goes into building hospitals, building roads, building schools, and so on, and let the private sector do its own bit. You know, multi-cloud strategies, business-aligned enterprise architectures, focusing on outstanding citizen experience and a multi-channel strategy, being able to dance across multiple access points, and a unified sovereign data strategy. I think my assertion is across AFCFTA. Okay. So there's some key takeaways where we need to drive agility to all layers of government, partnership to enable reliable digital infrastructure and reliable mining infrastructure. You know, we've got e-citizen, the ID, but we need to start looking at new technologies that will give us reliable biometrics. You know, if you look at fingerprints, they fade, they make it difficult, they're slow. If you use new technologies like fingerprint, that's more reliable, quicker, we then make adoption much, much better. You know, we need to think strategically across the regions and the continents, as I mentioned, continue to move services and mobile and content. It's not just one hit, it's a journey continuously. And we need to embrace emerging fifth industrial revolution technologies. The new minister for digital economy is really getting a global context of what we do with artificial intelligence, and we need to deal with it and embrace it now, but put in place the underlying infrastructure and citizen education and awareness to enable adoption. So as I said, next slide, and then it's a pathway to prosperous nation, digital infrastructure, embracing e-governance, and thank you very much.